Thanks a lot. So I'll help you guys kind of take the journey that I've taken over the last 3 years with Engagedly. So I'm a partner at Engagedly. I've actually been at T-Rex for about 3 years. Right? So I was the first hire here in the US. Been working with Engagedly for that period of time. I don't have a tech background, so if you have tech questions, I'm an industrial organizational psychologist by trade. Are any of you familiar with what that is? Okay, good. Plainly, I would just say we take psychological principles and we apply them to the context of the work and the workplace. Make work not suck, like Adam Grant says. We try, but in some workplaces, that's really hard. So when we talk today, I'll take you in kind of framing. Engagedly is a SaaS-based platform that focuses on employee engagement, solutions, and performance management. So one of the things, if any of you have done or been part of any performance management systems in a company, in a large Fortune 500, you probably had that experience of it's very impersonal. You're getting a number, they're telling you what for, you feel demotivated, they're talking about the past, they're talking about a lot of things that you can't control, and that was really designed to pull information for the business. So what we think about is more of a progressive solution, and we're part of a movement in there that helps address some of the problems we're facing. And so I share these stats with you just to think and conceptualize what these traditional systems are doing to our work environments. So here, this 210 was just a study that was done, and actually reported that managers are spending about 5 weeks on these reviews. No value, right? Because the second one's saying 8% only believe that they're getting value from that process. And then ultimately, you feel like you're talking about the past, you become disengaged as an employee, and you're thinking, well, this doesn't help me, this isn't about me, it doesn't talk about my work. Well, companies then collectively are losing about $500 billion in productivity from those disengaged employees. So we saw this as a problem, as most of us here in T-Rex and other startups, we're in the business of solving problems. Most of you guys I talk to, everybody's got a problem they're trying to address. Ours is how do we make these systems refocus on the employees for the organization? So we talk about helping the organizations refocus on the people, aligning the work that we do and connecting it. So when you're, even if you're co-located and you're sitting somewhere and you're doing some work, you're thinking about, hey, my work impacts X. So we draw those connections. Making performance a continuous process. So one of the things with those traditional systems was that it was once a year, maybe twice a year. We're getting feedback. But that's not the way we work, and that's not the way we operate in our social lives too. So let's make it a more continuous process. Let's focus on retention and development. So the growth mindset, and I think that's where the mental shift has to happen. So when we talk about shifting our mindset, we share this with our prospects when we're talking to them because there's a reframing that has to happen. You have to think, okay, if we did this for the business in the past, what do we need to think about now to engage our employees? So you start with the employee at the center rather than the business at the top. We start thinking about the interactions that an employee can become part of or just participate in to get work done. So the employee's at the center. We have to think about the relationships we have and the way we get work done and the feedback loops we need to be productive and to understand where we are. So this continuous approach is centered around the employee. You have ways to engage with your peers, your managers of peers, so we think about the way you do work, and then we replicate that in the system. HR, who typically manages these platforms or these products within organizations, then becomes no more than a facilitator. Right? They're just facilitating the tool that they use to understand their employees, to get them engaged, to make sure people are really interacting and getting things done that are related to the job and add value to the organization. So from all of us, when we talk about tech, when we talk about our products that we're going to market with, we always think in terms of really these 5 things within our product specifically in the segment we service. We have to make sure it's simple. We have to be feedback centric. We have to make sure people have an ongoing kind of collaborative space to check in and prompt others to give feedback. Incentivizing work, so there are rewards within our system, so we can start incentivizing behaviors. Because if it is about adoption of tools, we need to try to adopt some behaviors and get people kind of going. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if it is a performance management system, we got to have that connection with performance management. So we're saying that it's going to help the performance of the organization. So that's our philosophy. In the tools, just to kind of give you a vision here of what some of our clients may use. Back to the HR or the practitioners internally as the facilitators, they have the flexibility to choose any combination of these tools to align with their strategy. So not only is performance continuous, but your strategy may shift. If your strategy shifts, you can pivot your approach to use whatever tools whenever you think it's going to add value. The thing I always challenge people about here is just to think about when you have a system, ask yourself the question, what's working, what's not, keep what is working, and get rid of what's not working. The other side's a little bit more fun. We do make sure our product is fun for people to use. So here we focus more on the engagement and learning components, where we talk about giving collaboration spaces, gamifying the system. People can earn points in our system and then get gift cards and other things when we talk about key behaviors. And then those two pieces together, that slide I showed previously and this, really package together what Engagely.ly's platform as a whole is. All right, so that's a little bit about kind of why we exist, the company. In terms of our footprint, we are located primarily in the US, about 72% of our clients, growing markets in Asia and Europe, and then we have reps that you'll see here coming out in Australia as well. So founded as a global company with over 200 clients right now. So really having that built into our product too, supporting multiple languages and doing those things that are going to help across the globe. So here in our team, you may see these guys wandering around. If you do, say hi. But worldwide, we're about 50 plus R&D in Bangalore. Our CTO and our CEO sit there. Reps in the UK and Australia, and then we have our US team here. They span across things like customer success, sales, and some functions around the mentoring product we provide as well. All right, so the other piece, I would be remiss if I did not mention this product. Mentoring is something we actually moved into as well, because it supports our overall thesis of employee growth and development. So as we think about that as a broader company and a more strategic vision, we're talking about bringing in things that are going to help even outside of just the context of performance, to where we get down to that individual level here, and then we actually offer a software around mentoring. If any of you guys see Fridaus wandering around in the building, stop and ask her about it. She manages a lot of that product. All right, so that's a little bit about the logistical aspect of the company, kind of the future for us. And so this is where I start proposing to you guys to think. So we're pretty aggressive on the Engagely side. Triple, double, double, right? You guys have probably heard that in the SaaS world or just in software in general. That model, if you're going to want to make it as a company. So we've done some of the triple. Now we're in the double mode. So we got to go here, try to double our revenue, complete UI refresh of the product, as well as more role-based functions. So some big feats to tackle in the coming year. And on the Mentoring Complete side, there's a whole new product we purchased this year. So we have some challenges that we don't even know how to solve yet. So we're thinking here, right now we're going through a complete product UI overhaul of the whole system that we inherited, as well as we relaunched the market at the beginning of the year and an increase in 300,000K annual in revenue. And that's only with a really small, lean bootstrap team. So thinking about how do we make it happen. So your time to think and the challenges. So we have 4. I'm a guy about 4 with brain science. I always like things in 4. So if you haven't faced these problems yet, as a startup, you will face these. So that true differentiator, we're in a flooded market. when it comes to performance management and engagement. So true differentiators, I think it's tough looking at all the competitors, even on the progressive side. I don't think a lot of them have true differentiators. Churn, as we grow and pivot to upmarket, we're churning some of our smaller clients. The fit that we've sold years ago is not there. So that's something we always are trying to address. Enterprise sales, those long sales cycles. Our product was originally built as a startup, quick to implement, easy to adopt. Now we're starting to move up market and we're seeing the enterprise sales long. How do you manage and get people quickly that can manage a strategic sale and may not have that strategic thinking? And then maintaining a progressive approach. I think as our product evolves, it's just stacking layers. You're adapting to the use cases, but ultimately, can you continually evolve with the market and the changes in technology and try to even keep pace slightly? So those are some of the challenges I want to share with you that we face and a little bit about the company. And so with that, Joe, I'll open it up to you guys to ask questions, give feedback, and thoughts.
All right. Please raise your hands and I will yell at you to ask a question. Jay? No mic. You lost the second mic. Yeah. I did, yeah, of course. I'm on the mic order.
I'll do my best to reframe your question in the way that I want to answer it.
I understand your company completely now. So who is your target company? What's your audience?
Yeah, so that's always a question we get. I think more like persona-based, right? So the segment, if I had to go with like demographic size, I'd say where we fit really well is it's pretty broad range, like that 50 to 5,000. You start getting the upper bands of enterprise, there's a lot more requirements that we're built for, but do we handle them well? That's a good question. The persona is more around, we're talking to that initial buyer. We train a lot of our sales folks in this process too, doing that needs assessment, like understanding, does that practitioner have a vision? Do they have a vision and they want to have and operationalize this vision into the tool? So if they start to articulate that and they talk about engagement and performance management and they're having this vision in mind, we tend to be a better fit for those. If you're looking for a check-the-box solution to administer your process, that's not a good buyer for us. So we go on the persona base and we think about those personas. We're on those visionary leaders that tend to have more of a clear idea of what they want to do and want facilitation control to evolve over time. Does that help answer your question? He's like 0. No,
Right,
did not answer my question.
5%. Yeah. I'll take the next question. Could you kind of walk us through, say we have a new company, say I have a company, 50 employees, we hire you, what it looks like from the implementation side, but also what it looks like from the use side, from both the user, from both the employee and the employer. Could you flesh that out a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So 50 is a good number, right? Below 50, I wouldn't be using a product. You're going to have a lot of those interactions, one-to-ones. You'll be able to scale and still be able to probably manage it pretty well. So when clients sign on with us, first there's that needs assessment. They probably have done multiple demos of the product, so we know what they're getting. From that point, you're partnered with your CSM. Your CSM kind of walks you through. Because our system is broad and we're pretty flexible, we make sure we have high-touch CSMs and high-touch support so that when you're sharing your timelines, your vision, your CSM's walking you step by step through. The product itself is set up in a couple of days, so you're actually in there in that first week as an admin or facilitator, working with the CSM, meeting with them, building your process, move into training your managers in that second, third week, then rolling it out to employees. By week 4 or 5, you're up and running, you're already using the tool, focus on what's important to you, and you have ongoing technical support as well as the CSM who's going to help you in the process.
Okay.
Does that help answer your question?
Well, I guess I'm just a little confused. Not confused, but I'd like to hear a little more about what it looks like day to day for, I'm an employee, how am I interacting with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're sitting there in your job, you're maybe co-located, you're in one part of the country, you do a presentation. You want to get some feedback. You can go out there, you have the ability at any time to request that feedback from anybody. So it's open system.
Okay.
Maybe as a manager for you, when you started, I set some goals for you. And I said, all right, here's some goals. Maybe you changed them a little bit. You check into these goals over time, and as you interact with those, I'm being prompted too. That, hey, he's interacted, he's changed this. There's dialogues within there. So everything you're doing in interaction isn't a transaction, it's an interaction point. So you have the ability to facilitate ongoing conversations, whether that be about feedback, goals, maybe you want to give rewards to somebody, give somebody points for doing something great. It just depends
Right.
what you're looking to do. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps more. Yes, thank you. Other questions? Questions?
Can you talk on the mentoring side?
Yeah, mentoring. I think the first thing I always challenge people to think about in mentoring is not coaching. A lot of people, when you talk to them, think about that first. That's the first thing we train on. On the mentoring side, the product is really fourfold. There are 4 bullets there. Once you understand mentoring is not coaching, then it's how do we develop that mentoring relationship. So there's a few things we offer from the product side. The full scale of that relationship, meaning matching, facilitation, the ongoing check-ins of it, and then the training of like teaching you concepts for the university. So we'll have matching programs, the Mentoring Complete, which is the whole product, which includes the matching and the university. But the university by itself, we have anytime mentoring, which is more social. If you just want to ask somebody to coach you who has a certain skill set, if it's identified in an organization, you could. You can become a mentor-mentee. But that product is actually, I didn't emphasize in the bullet point there, but when we purchased that company out of Boston, Enterprise Holdings actually uses this product. Right? They've been using it for about 11 years. So they're one of our clients we inherited there, as well as some other big enterprise companies, because it helps scale these mentoring relationships and really assess how people are progressing over time and the value of mentoring.
Fair.
What do you think differentiates you? Does some of the competition have interesting taglines? I mean, how do you get customers at this point?
Yeah, so 2 things based on who I'm talking to, I think differentiate us. One is the gamification aspect, the gamified environment, where it's not we're having the game, because a lot of people say gamification, what's the game we're playing? But essentially every action that we're doing, when we're facilitating conversations or we're asking for feedback, you can earn points and incentivize people to kind of do some of those behaviors. So getting people going is one thing we always talk about, because within the context of engagement performance management, not a lot of companies do that. We do that pretty well. And then the other side would be giving the flexibility. So just the product design, everybody's building around the users, which is the employee. The way it's designed in our framework, and having that flexible component to where they can constantly assess, hey, what's working, what's not, and then get rid of what isn't very quickly themselves. So that kind of flexibility. Those are 2 things, but again, I think we struggle with that as a challenge. To answer that question, I don't think anybody really stands out in our market that has a clear answer that they're like, wow, that blows everybody else's answer away, and they're vastly different because it's a pretty flooded space.
To follow up that question then, so what is your marketing strategy? I mean, if you can't say, hey, we're the best widget in town, why should we go with your widget?
I wouldn't say we're not the best, but marketing strategy, anything and everything. No, I'd say it's how do we continually share the use cases that we've had with clients where they've had success, understanding our clients really well and what they're doing well, and then taking their feedback to kind of enhance it. So as we do that, it helps our product evolve, and that evolution is a better fit. So as we become better with our clients, not telling them what to do, but sharing the journey with them, then we'll kind of evolve our product, and our marketing strategy is always going to be to those personas. Just sharing stories and what we do in the market, expanding out, keeping people informed so they can make educated decisions. And I think that's the key to any marketing is your buyer's smarter than you give them credit for. So educate them, and educate them honestly about what you do. Naturally, if your product is good, you'll have some people gravitating towards that as long as you're communicating that out to a large audience.
And how are you measuring your own performance? If you come into a company and say, if you bring us on, you'll have better retention rates. Like, are you measuring all of those things? And what would you say would be the 3 things you would key in on with an employer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, for any of the startups, I feel like that, unless you design the product initially with that in mind, I think that becomes a challenge for anybody. So from our side, when we think about it, we have business metrics that we're tracking in terms of churn that we know our clients stay with us. And then when we talk about the internal client themselves, then we talk about, through our interviews with them. So most of it's like focused interviews we would do. What's the biggest value add that we're providing? So then a lot of times what we're getting from them is the administrative side, meaning that we've removed the administrative burden to free them up to be more strategic. So a lot of it is honestly anecdotal because we are getting various data points, and to see consistent themes with a platform that's flexible is challenging because your variables that you're using are changing as clients, right? Your strategy at X may not be strategy at Y, so how am I comparing X and Y? Right? There has to be a consistent theme. So it just depends. It's a struggle, I think, for a lot of the companies. I think the best things that they can do are the usage stats tied to the financial outcomes for the business.
Yeah.
But making that connection, it's not one-to-one. It's
Right. Of course not.
kind of a convoluted mess.
And I guess the biggest thing is employee retention. That's the biggest
Yeah,
headache,
absolutely.
training someone to have them leave. And have you found good numbers at least with your platform?
Yeah, I mean, some industries have natural high turnover.
Yeah.
If you're working with a call center and they're using your product, I mean, what's improved retention?
Right.
60 versus 70%. I'd say it's more on the facilitation side, and how you're freeing up like the practitioners who are just kind of like just overburdened with the administrative side of things, where you're spanning them to be more strategic. Because our buyer a lot of times in here is HR. They're the user in here.
Right.
Maybe if they're not the buyer, they're the user. They're so bogged down in in the mundane day-to-day admin stuff that people are like, I hate my HR team. Well, it's not you hate your HR team, you hate the function. Their function's so administrative, so we can free them up, be more strategic, ask questions like what's working, what's not. Show them data points. Hey, where's my talent? Give them those insights so they can, and I think that's the value. Let's remove the pain, and then it's, the value is just kind of opening up that space.
Yeah. Okay. More questions?
Any questions?
Any questions?
No questions? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
Do you have a particular industry niche right now, or would that be useful to you?
Yeah, I always say, what industries do I stay away from? So I go on the flip side, because I think HR functions across, employee performance is across, engaging your employees is important in every organization. It's tough when you think about the context of the work and what these systems are asking. If the system is requiring you to engage and facilitate dialogues with people, does that make sense to the work? In a manufacturing environment, I'd probably say there's a better tool, right, than having them be on their phone or on a laptop, because that's not part of the work input. Right? There's probably a better methodology to engage your employees, or even have a complementary tool like ours to engage them. So I think I stay away from manufacturing. A lot of times I stay away from really heavy KPI-driven organizations, call centers. It depends. Businesses can have different strategies, but call centers too, because they're like real heavy on the KPIs. KPIs and goals are not the same, and goals are a core function of performance management. So I think that gets pretty convoluted too. I digressed a bit for you, so hopefully
No,
it's
that's good.
a
Okay.
circular answer.
Right.
So the last question is, what can the community do for you?
Yeah, I think when you think about strategies to that challenge piece where I talked about how do you, when you're starting up, you can be progressive because you are different. But after you start up and get going, I think every enterprise that's out there that hits a Fortune 500 struggles with that. How do you maintain being progressive? If that's your sticking point and you want to be progressive, you want to be built for the employee, you want to continually evolve, how do you maintain that evolution to be true? Churn, sales, those challenges. I think any feedback to those questions, whether you're talking to Shree, who's walking by in here, who's the president, he's not here today, but you'll see him from time to time, just engage in a dialogue, share. I think as we continue to share with each other about our experiences and what we're faced with, I think that's good. That's the ask I would ask from the community, is just keep open dialogues with each other about those things. So,
All right.
collective ask.
All right. Anything else?